Oh my gosh, like I was so scared because, dude, imagine seeing hives on your body after you're getting surgery. Like, that's scary.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Alannized, and this is Noche de Pendejadas, your favorite podcast turned talk show en donde yo te traigo a tus influencers favoritos para platicar y posiblemente sacarle sus trapitos al sol. Hoy les tengo un episodio, amigas, que yo sé que ya en casita ustedes están súper emocionadas de escuchar. So without any further ado, please help me welcome my guest tonight, Riri Realness.
Hello, you guys. My name is Riri Realness. I also go by Rochelle Ruby, and I'm so happy to be here today, Alan. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited, you guys. I know I always say that this has been a long time in the making, but we have literally talked about it here and there, you know, whenever we'd see each other. And I'm so glad that it's finally happening because I feel like whenever I have anyone in my chair, you guys, me gusta porque siento como que I get to meet them on a deeper level. And I feel like that's gonna be today. I'm gonna leave today knowing you in a whole different way.
Yes, and I'm so excited to open up to you, get to know you more as well. And I'm just so grateful it finally aligned because it's been a long time in the making.
Yes, it has been, you guys. If you guys follow Riri, you guys knew she had to come in with her iconic green.
Siempre.
You love green. It's your favorite color, right?
Me encanta verde. It's my favorite color since like I was born. I've just always loved how exotic, different it is. It's not red, it's not blue, it's not pink, it's green. And only the bad bitches understand.
I love pink and black, right? I'm always in black.
Right,
and I feel like it can get boring because it's like, bitch, ya
Yes.
cámbiate. Like change it
exactly.
up. But I feel like you're one of those people that like is always in that color palette, but you always make it look so different and so good. You don't overdo it. Like, I think you do it to the point where it looks like, oh, bitch, okay. It's either the hair, it's either the top, it's either, or everything. And if you do everything, it looks so good.
Yeah, it's like it's a whole look y todo. And I appreciate you saying that because like I really do try to put in work into my green looks because it's a part of my brand now and just it's a part of my life. I love greens, so I try to incorporate in everything that I can.
Do you plan them out? Like, do you like sit down, like, let's say Friday night and you're like, okay, let's buy green things because I want to put it with this.
If there's an event coming up and I'm allowed to wear any color, I'm always gonna wear green. Like Coachella, I try to do like only green looks, or like if it's my birthday, I do a green look every single year.
And you're gonna serve a look every single time.
Thank
That's
you.
the first thing, you guys, I said. I was like, oh my God, you look so good. But I really did not expect any less. I really did not. Like, you know what I mean? Because I was like, she's always giving, she's always serving. And as soon as she walked in through the door, you guys, I was like, exactamente como me la imaginaba. Es como entró. And I'm so excited pues de tenerte aquí el día de hoy. Today's episode is sponsored by VIIA. Let's be real. 2025 has been all about change. Whether it's work, personal stuff, or just a daily grind, it can be hard to keep up. But here's the deal. When things get hectic, we don't have to go through it alone. Embrace the power of nature and elevate your everyday with VIIA. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, VIIA is the Swiss Army knife of wellness, dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to creating high-quality wellness products. Whether you're looking to improve your sleep, focus, recovery, and add a little pep to your step, or just get high, VIIA has something for you. With products ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC, VIIA gives you the power to blaze your own trail. VIIA is well-renowned for all their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flowers, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part, VIIA legally ships to nearly all states in the US in discreet packaging directly to your door at a worry-free guarantee. No medical card required. So if you're 21 plus, check out our link to VIIA's website linked in our description and use code ALLEN for 15% off. And if you're new to VIIA, get a free gift of your choice. After you've purchased, they ask you where you heard about them, so please show support to our show and tell them we sent you. Embrace your everyday with VIIA. Ya vamos a empezar with today's episode, you guys. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and give you the microphone so you can tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, so my name is Riri Realness. I am a 22-year-old trans woman from the Bay Area, California. I've been dancing since I was 7 years old, and I've also been doing social media for the last 6 years. So she's been in the industry for a while now.
You guys have most likely seen her viral dancing videos, you guys. And today, you guys are going to be able to know a little bit more about the person behind those videos. Y pues ya vamos a empezar con el episodio del día de hoy, you guys. Today, like I said, we're going to get to know you. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with the question I love starting with because I feel like it is very important to understand and know your upbringing. So we're going to start with the question I always love to start with. How was Riri growing up? Tell us about your childhood.
Riri growing up was very athletic. I would say my parents, prior to transitioning, wanted to make me do everything like a boy, everything. Sports, I did football, basketball, baseball. I was just always athletic at the time, which I hated because I hated sports until I found my love for dance, which thank goodness. But at the time I hated it, and now I'm so grateful for the stamina and just being an active person now because I still am dancing after 15 years and just been always super outgoing since I was a kid, always been super just happy, wanting to make everyone happy around me and just follow my dreams and being here today.
You were like in sports like that? Like you were making the football team y todo eso?
No, like in elementary. I have an older brother. So they pretty much wanted me to do everything like him. He was played every sport. So they put me in every sport. Kind of like just like the local team, like in the city. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hated it, you guys. Like I did not want to be there. I was like, I did not want to do this. But they're like, no, you have to. Like, you're a boy. Thankfully, my mom, weirdly enough, found a dance team. She put me on the dance team. And oh my gosh, it was like magic. I literally loved it so much. I enjoyed it. I always felt a very strong connection to music. For the longest time, I couldn't dance unless I was playing sports on the side. So on top of being in school, and on top of wanting to do dance, which is like 2-3 rehearsals a week, my parents were like, you have to do baseball, you have to do football this season, or you have to do basketball. They only seemed that it was okay because, oh, like, yeah, they're playing sports too, so dance is fine. Yeah. But deep down inside, I was like, I only want to dance. Like, this is what I want to do. And it was getting questioned a lot growing up. Like, you know, you can't be dancing with all those girls. Why do you have so many girlfriends? Like, da-da-da-da. Or like, don't dance like that. But it was literally just naturally like how I was and like what came to me at the time. It did start out with me at first dancing. I was doing it for a few years and my older brother and my little brother decided to join and try it out. And they were good, but it didn't really stick for them the way it stuck for me. I feel like I definitely really formed that connection with dance and it was just history from there.
Tell us a little bit more about the relationship with your parents growing up. Would you consider yourself a daddy's girl, a mommy's girl? What was their parenting like? Were they strict? Would they let you do whatever you wanted? Cuéntanos un poquito de eso.
I was definitely more of a mama's girl growing up. My relationship with my parents, thankfully, I'm blessed to have always had a great relationship with them and even now, but it wasn't always easy. I definitely went through a lot of obstacles to get me where I'm at today and to have the stronger bond that I have with both my parents today. So my parents did allow me to kind of do what I want as a kid. They put me in sports, they put me in school activities, you know, they were thankfully there for me, pero not for my sexuality. I think that was like my biggest fear growing up was like, deep down, I always knew that I liked boys from a young age. I mean, didn't we all? Like, what did we all know? But they were not accepting of that. Just very traditional, like very old school mindset. Just queer people not being so prominent in my family was also like just them not knowing better. Definitely getting through that was really tough going through in high school.
Was that something that you growing up would hear a lot? Maybe not directed towards you, but like little side comments about like the community or about being gay. Was that something that they would constantly like talk about or even mention?
Yes, like from when I was born, I've always been way more feminine than both my brothers. So I was also constantly getting critiqued or like, hey, don't do that, or that's for girls, or like, you know, like you're not supposed to do that, which is like so like I feel like in a way traumatizing because when you keep telling your kid like, no, you can't be doing that when it's really not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It makes you think it's wrong and you have to do all this sneaky stuff or you're doing it not safely and just like all this navigating by yourself that your parents should be a part to help you in and like at least try to understand, which like I said is way better now. A memory I can definitely remember of my parents telling me that being gay and being feminine wasn't okay was when they pulled me out of dance in the 6th grade. They actually were noticing me getting really feminine, kind of just getting more comfortable with myself. Because also like understanding your femininity and your masculinity is being comfortable with yourself. I was getting very comfortable, you know, dancing, being happy. And they're like, okay, there's a little too much sugar in that tank. Like, calm it down. They pulled me out of dance for a whole year. And mind you, I was in dance for like 5 years straight at that point. They literally made me play baseball for a whole year, a whole season. And oh my gosh, I was so miserable. I was like not happy. Being forced to do something that you're verbally and physically expressing is not something you want to do, which is so draining. But like I said, there's so much growth that I take from that rather than viewing it as a negative part of my life. But definitely that's like the first thing I can remember, like, why was this wrong? Like, why is me dancing wrong? Like, why can't boys dance?
You know, we'll obviously talk a little bit more in the interview about your coming out story and about maybe like the moment that you felt like they accepted you for who you were. But I want to talk a little bit about what it was like growing up with multicultural parents. Your dad is Latino
Sí.
and your mom is Asian. What was that like growing up? You know, how do you feel like both cultures were represented growing up? Did you grow up more like with the Asian culture? Tell us a little bit about that when it came down to like your household.
It was very interesting to grow up in a mixed household. My dad is Salvadorian, Guatemalan, and Mexican, and Native American, and my mom is Filipina, Chinese, and Spanish. A lot of different cultures that are being embraced in one household, which there's only so much that I could learn and did learn at the time being. It makes me so appreciative now at being an adult, just learning about my family ancestry and seeing how much my family has gone through to get us here to America and me being able to live the life that I have now. Like I said, I was always a mommy's girl, so I grew up more leaning towards my mom's side, which is like my Filipina side, mostly the culture that I grew up around because my dad's family all mostly lives in Colorado. So I met like, I would say like a little bit of them, but, or most of them at a very young age. And so they haven't seen me who I am now today. And I actually feel like that has been kind of like the difficult part about being multicultural as well, is it makes you have to really be educated about all your cultures and also embracing it too and not neglecting what's in your blood. And I think now being an adult, being more mature and being on my own, it's really made me realize that I want to learn so much about all of my cultures and embrace all of it and represent for all my communities, because in a time like today, we need it and we need to be proud of who we are and not ashamed of any side of us, whether we grew up learning about it or whether we didn't.
Take us back to the first moment where you realized that you were a little different, you know, a little different compared to your siblings, to your dad, when it came down to your sexuality.
I think the first time I questioned my identity had to be when I was trying on my mom's heels in her closet, which, oh my gosh, I would get in so much trouble for when at a young age. But I would sneak into my mom's closet. She had all her heels lined up and I'd pick them up and I started putting them on and, you know, start stomping, and I just knew you know, that's a little like, that's not what all the other boys are doing, but hey, I like to do it. It's fun. There was just so many times where I questioned my identity, like, why can't I do this? Like, isn't this a free country? Aren't we all able to do what we want in this world? Like, it's not illegal? Why can't I express myself how I want to express myself? I remember my mom would catch me and like, my mom's Filipina, so Filipinas are loud. Like, we have a very strong voice, and you know, when you get us angry, like we'll get angry. And like, she definitely like yelling like, hey, Riri, like, what are you doing? Like, take those off. And like, you know, I get scared right away. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I'm sorry. It definitely happened. I feel like a couple times. I feel like I can't remember exactly, but there's just definitely times where I was always exploring in my mom's closet. I would be playing with her makeup, not knowing how to use it, just like drawing it on myself or like playing with her jewelries. And I just knew, like, why am I always so attracted to the glamorous things?
Would your mom ever tell your dad about what was going on? Because I feel like moms, because my mom too, whenever she would see something that she was like, wait a minute, you're like,
Right.
este va a salir diferente. I feel like my mom, she would catch me, right? And she would see, but she would kind of almost like hide it from my dad because she didn't want my dad to make it like an even bigger thing.
scene.
Was that something that your mom kind of did? Like she would catch you, but she wouldn't tell your dad just so you wouldn't have to hear it twice?
It was definitely, that was the case. It was definitely like if my dad finds out, like, oh, I'm really in trouble now, because my mom can usually handle it, but you don't want to make my dad mad. So definitely that was something that was like, thankfully to my mom, she didn't always tell, but if I was being bad, like she'd be like, okay, like I'm gonna tell your dad, and from there it would just like pray for me.
Me estabas contando anoche that you came out twice, the first time as gay and then the second time as trans a year later. Cuéntanos un poquito más de esa primera vez that you came out as gay to your parents. How did they react? Paint us a story of the day that you sat them down and you were like, look, mom and dad, this is who I am.
I had to come out technically 4 times, because I had to come out to my mom and dad separate times because my parents are no longer together, which is a part of like also why it took me so long to come out. Just dealing with everything at home. I didn't want to add stress of like, what are we going to do now that Riri's gay or Riri's trans? Like just so much stress that I wanted to like keep to myself. It was my senior year. I was 17 at the time in 2019. I was starting to publicly dance a little bit more feminine, which I knew that my family, my parents could see me on social media, and I knew that it was going to be a conversation that I needed to have with my parents. And honestly, it was the hardest conversation that I knew I had to have, which sometimes you avoid those tough things that you have to go through. But I also knew, like, once I tell my parents, like, I really don't care who else knows and who else hates on me or who else's opinion. It just doesn't matter, because you really just care about your parents' opinion and validation and your family. It was 2019. I knew that I had to come out to my mom first, because that was just, my mom was like more the dominant parent, that like I knew that that was gonna be the most like hard band-aid to peel off. It was like November, it was I guess like November 19th. It was nighttime. My mom had just made dinner and I was downstairs, and at this point it was after Halloween. Summer had passed, Pride had passed, my birthday. I just had came out to my dance group, the Next Kids at the time. So they were making me feel comfortable and loved. And I would just felt like comfortable and safe with myself. So I was like, okay, I should tell my mom now, like maybe like she won't take it as bad. And I came out to my mom, and oh my gosh, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done. She did not take it as light as I thought she would. It was definitely a hard pill for her to swallow, because she was in denial. She didn't believe that that was true. She wanted to make sure that that's how I really felt and that nothing ever happened to me to make me feel that way. I remember it was just so like heartbreaking to hear my mom not being so accepting when so many things feel like they're coming into place for you. Like dance was going very well. I was planning to moving to LA, and like my friends were accepting, like I was about to graduate high school. So to have like the closest people to your parents just like not accept something you want to do for the rest of your life is hard to like take in yourself. And it was very rocky for me and my mom's relationship from that point, because a couple months later COVID hit. So with COVID hitting, I was basically in lockdown with my house with my mother, which, being around people for so long, you start to get annoyed, especially being like her daughter, this like just a mother-daughter, like argumented things.
And at the time you had only came out as gay, right? Like you hadn't told her that you were trans?
Yeah, so at the time I didn't know I was trans yet. I didn't plan on being trans when I first came out. I always knew like I said, I always knew I liked boys and I was gay since a very young age, since I can't even remember, because I've just always been attracted and I've always known that. It just wasn't something I could publicly be open about, especially like when your family's not being supportive of your queerness and your sexuality. You're terrified of what school's gonna think, what your teachers are gonna think, what your dance classmates are gonna think, because if it's not being taught to you in the home that it's okay, you're going to think it's wrong everywhere else, and you're going to think it's not okay and people aren't going to accept it. So for a long time, I was always like trying to pretend to be straight, trying to pretend to like fit in, to be a masculine boy that I truly never was, only to make other people happy. Being with my mom and being during COVID, it was just so much arguing that I dealt with, and just so much like just not understanding. I feel like it's just so much educating, and I think it took me leaving for my mom to be like, wow, like that really is my child at the end of the day. I love her no matter what, and I understand. And I think thankfully for women always just being so supportive and understanding of us queer people, because I feel like they're our biggest allies and advocates, and I just always like am so grateful, because without them, like how else could we get the acceptance that we always deserve? See, with my dad, it was the opposite. I feel like my dad is more on social media, so I thought he was kind of picking up on the clues more of like, you know, me starting to wear bodysuits and pink and purple, and like doing like, you know, doing my like lash extensions and nails. And like I remember my dad had asked me one time, he was like, so I gotta ask you, like, are you with one of the girls? Are you talking to them? Like, you know, what's up? Like,
Or are you one of the girls?
yeah, you one of the girls. Yes, and that's exactly what he said. I was like, Dad, like at the time I was like, Dad, I'm gay. And to me, it was funny because I was like, I just thought he knew, but he did not think it was funny. He was like, had to take a second to like really process. And it took him a time to process, but he didn't treat me any differently. He was just like, okay, like that's still my kid. But like it just goes into like when I did transition, it was like an opposite story for both of my parents. It was definitely a gradual process getting into me being trans. Although I publicly came out at 17, and it took me only a year to come out as trans. As I mentioned, I always knew I was attracted to boys. So that wasn't something that I came into conclusion when I was 17. It was just like, no, y'all are just finding out. I've always known. Me being trans, I definitely, once I came out publicly, it was just so liberating to be as feminine as I want, be as masculine as I want, bend the gender lines, and like just try new things. Be like, try the nails, try the outfits. Cause like I was dressing and acting like a straight boy for my whole life. So I wanted and was craving to do all that. And over that year, I was just getting more feminine and more feminine and more feminine. Like whatever I could do to make myself prettier, more cunt, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like if it was the nails, if it was the hair cuts, like the outfits, like I was on top of it. You know, I went from DL to Butch Queen to femboy to trans woman. So it was definitely, if you've been following the journey, you've definitely seen me over the years like blossom. So when I told them that I was trans, thankfully my mom already was picking up on the clues, and she was very, very accepting of me being trans. She had opened up to me right before I moved to LA, that she cried to me. She's like, I don't care what you are. Like, I'm sorry for everything like we kind of been through over this past year during COVID. It was just such a rough year for everybody. And then like coming out in the middle of that is just, oh my gosh, like it was crazy. But thankfully we prevailed. We got through it. And my mom just like, she held my hand through the way. I wasn't with any of my family when I came out as trans. I just moved to LA. So I was here 8 months without seeing any family, just figuring it out all on my own. Thankfully, I had my girls that I was like my dance team that I was living with, and we all had each other's support. But it was the opposite with my dad. At this time, I knew having the conversation with my dad was going to be the hard one to have, because I knew that since I haven't seen him, I need to call him and explain to him what's going on. And first things, I'm like, how do I even explain this to my dad? Like, is he going to understand? Like, no, he's not going to understand. And we got on a call, and it was just very hard to like open up to him about like me wanting to take it there with my life, when that's something that is like, so I guess like to a lot of people, it's a risk. It's a very big risk, especially without knowing trans people or knowing about that lifestyle. You don't know what your child is truly getting into, and you just want the best for your child. So I can definitely see why and how and where my dad is coming from, reacting the way he did. He didn't like, nothing like bad happened, but it definitely was a disagreement over the phone of just like, no, like this is who I am, and this is not for external purposes. Like this is truly for me and how I want to go about the rest of my life as a woman. It definitely took my dad some time for us to like get back on some like grounded feet of a leveled relationship, because I feel like my dad kind of way felt like obviously like he lost his son, which is like hard for him to accept and a hard pill to swallow. Thankfully, my dad and I still have a good relationship. We do still keep in contact. It has changed. I will say it hasn't felt the same since, but I definitely think it takes time. You know, at least my dad is like still here and like he's still here for me. And I actually just seen him for the first time in 3 years.
How was that?
Oh my gosh, we were both crying. It was just like, I saw him on Christmas last year. And it's just very scary. Like, coming out gay is like already scary to your family, especially when you have a very like strict family when it comes to those beliefs. And coming out as trans is like, okay, that's even more extreme than being gay. So it definitely took me a while to come around to my family. But thankfully, they all were actually accepting. It definitely has to do with social media.
Yeah.
Social media like has opened up my family's eyes to being like, wow, like she really is talented. She really can do it. And, you know, she's like doing something with her life and she's happy. So I feel like, thankfully, shout out to social media for allowing me to just express myself authentically. But yeah, I saw my dad and it was just such a great experience. Like, all of me and my siblings and my dad being in the same room, especially just with all that we've been through. It's just like, you know, life's too short. You can't just hold stuff over each other like that.
If you're struggling with your mental health, you can spend hours browsing online forums, scrolling social media, and reading expert advice to help you feel better. But while all these resources can be a good starting point, there's no replacement for real human relationships. It takes a real person to understand your human experience. So don't rely on generic advice online or on social media. Instead, use Alma to find a person who understands all the things that make you. That's why Alma makes it easy to connect with an expert therapist, a real person who can listen, understand, and support you through all your specific challenges. When you browse their online directory, you can filter by the qualities that matter to you. Then book a free 15-minute consultation with the therapist you're interested in seeing. Unlike other online therapy platforms that match you with the first available person, you can find someone you connect with on a personal level and see real improvements in your mental health with their support. Ustedes saben, amigas, the rough couple of months que he pasado. Hace más de 6 meses perdí a mi abuelito y honestamente yo siento que hubiera sido la oportunidad perfecta para empezar terapia porque pues obviamente ustedes saben, dealing with grief is really hard and confusing y siento como que si yo hubiera empezado terapia en ese momento, I feel like my grieving process would have been smoother, but it's never too late to start therapy. Better with people, better with Alma. Visit HelloAlma.com/Alan to get started and schedule a free consultation today. That's HelloAlma.com/ALAN. That is HelloAlma.com/Alan. Today's episode is sponsored by VIIA. Let's be real. 2025's been all about change. Whether it's work, personal stuff, or just a daily grind, it can be hard to keep up. But here's the deal. When things get hectic, we don't have to go through it alone. Embrace the power of nature and elevate your everyday with VIIA. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, VIIA is the Swiss Army knife of wellness, dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to creating high-quality wellness products. Whether you're looking to improve your sleep, focus, recovery, and add a little pep to your step, or just get high, VIIA has something for you. With products ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams of THC, VIIA gives you the power to blaze your own trail. VIIA is well-renowned for all their award-winning THC and THC-free gummies and vapes, THCA flowers, soothing topicals, and calming drops, all crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part, VIIA legally ships to nearly all states in the US in discreet packaging directly to your door at a worry-free guarantee. No medical card required. When I received my package, I was so excited to try out the VIIA Dreams gummies that have 2 mgs of THC per gummy, porque si tienen que saber algo de mi amigas, I struggle with sleeping. Mine and Danny's sleeping schedule is so bad that we end up falling asleep como a las 3 de la mañana, y el otro día me tomé una gummy and I fell asleep so easily, you guys, and I had the best night's sleep ever. So if you're 21 plus, check out our link to VIIA's website linked in our description and use code ALAN for 15% off. And if you're new to VIIA, get a free gift of your choice. After you've purchased, they ask you where you heard about them, so please show support to our show and tell them we sent you. Embrace your everyday with VIIA. Did they recognize you that first time? Like, were you scared, because I'm sure it's like, okay, like I look completely different from the last time you guys saw me. What was
Yes.
that moment like for you, for your family? Like, what were their faces? What did they tell you? Tell us a little bit more about that.
My dad's family here in California is pretty small, so it wasn't hard for them to know exactly who I was when I walked in. It was just definitely like a big shock factor to everybody that I actually showed up. Because for the past 3 years, it was just like, is Riri coming? Like,
She's avoiding us.
yeah, she's avoiding us, and like, we just want to see her. But it's like, at the same time, you gotta have that mutual respect, like with transitioning comes, the gender pronoun changes and just also the treatment as the gender that you're presenting as. That is super important to me, especially growing up with two brothers and most of my cousins are boys. It's just like something that I always grew up around, just the boys, and I'm just like, like, no, like I'm really a girl, like deep down. It was just definitely like such a blessed experience to be able to go back to see my family and they just be happy to see me at the end of the day, no matter how I show up.
Was that something that the people around you struggled, like the pronouns? Was that something that you had to be like, hey, look, things have changed. I need you to, talk to me and call me and treat me for how I feel, not for what you remember? Was that a conversation you had to have, not just with your parents, but with everyone around? If so, what was their reaction? Do you feel like some people would take them longer to like accept and actually, start calling you by the correct pronouns?
That's definitely a concern that was very prominent to me in the beginning of like, hey, like these are my pronouns now. And especially in the beginning of your transition, you're like, I did not look like this. So it's like you're just trying to literally match how you feel internally. And essentially, people on the outside have to do with that. Like they help validate that, they help affirm and assure that. So having those conversations with my family was definitely kind of tough sometimes. It's like, hey, like don't call me that. Cause it's like, they don't mean to. It's just like they seen you grow up since you were in diapers. So it's like, it's very hard for them to just quickly adjust like that. It definitely took time. And like I said, social media definitely helped them get to watch me and realize like, wow, she is a woman. Like that's a woman. Like you can't call her a boy. It takes time. And I will say like just having to correct them could be like very like, it shifted my mood. Like I would be in a good mood and then they'll just say it and it just like brings you
Trigger
back
you.
down, just triggers me down to like the beginning of like when I was trans or just even in the beginning of when I was trans. It was just always like a trigger that was being pressed, and you literally have to be thick-skinned, strong-minded, and know who you are to know that that's not who you really are. It's not who you present as, and they will understand one day. And if they don't, I'll have to remove myself. And thankfully, they have come around. It's gotten so much better, and at the end of the day, my family just appreciates me being there, and I feel like now that I am out and about and open, I see so much more queer people in my Latino heritage and in my like Asian heritage. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did I not know about this like my whole life? Like it's literally like we're in every heritage. Like it's not just like a certain type of people, a certain type of group, or you're hanging around the wrong people. It literally, there's trans and gay people everywhere. I actually did not grow up watching or knowing a lot about any queer people in the LGBT community. I feel like I've seen it here and there, like online or on TV. I feel like it was all very like hidden for me purposely, because I feel like a lot of people in my family did notice from a young age I was very, very feminine. So to protect me from falling into that lifestyle, they would try to keep me away from stuff like that. But you can't take away something that somebody is. And they're always gonna go back to it. It's always gonna be them, even if you take it all away. I think definitely like it has a lot to do with where you grow up and how you grow up around. Like being from a small town in the Bay Area, it's not really exposed to that. And I feel like just now the Bay Area is having the LGBT community grow even more exposure, and just around the world and in America. I didn't also like start to find out about trans women, trans lifestyle, I would say right into like late high school. And like honestly, till I moved here is when I really like seen every type of walk of life in the queer community, like non-binary, like every type of sex and sexuality. Just being in LA has definitely just opened my eyes and just like validated like, yeah, like there's so many of us out here and we all have each other's back. Social media had so much to do with acceptance of me and kind of educating my parent or my family as well. Just on trans topics and just the LGBT community and like our laws that are being passed and taken away, like it's important for you to know about your
Yeah.
family members too, and what's going on with them or their safety.
I think it is very much about like the educating, because I feel like when I came out, I was already doing like the makeup, right? Like when I came out, I was doing like the boy in makeup thing. And I feel like one of the main things when I came out to my parents, they were very concerned, like, what does this mean? Especially when they were seeing me put on the makeup, they went into thinking like, what, do you want to transition? Do you want to become a girl? And I feel like it is very important to like explain and educate them and be like, you know what, like, I don't, but I want you to understand that there is people that like, that is a route, but that's not what I want to do. I feel like as a part of the LGBTQ community, I feel like it kind of sucks that we have to like educate them, but we also have to like remember that they probably didn't grow up with that or around it, and they're kind of confused, as much as maybe we are growing up, you weren't really exposed to trans women or, that world. Do you remember that first time, where you saw a trans woman and you were like, you know what, this is what I've been feeling? Because, you were telling us that when you first came out as gay, you always were like, oh, I like boys, and it was just, oh, I'm gay. And then that whole year you started, experimenting more, feeling different. What was that moment or that person that was like, you know what, that's how I feel?
I think I will always give my props to somebody I looked up to since the beginning was Nikita. I watched her since since 2018, 2019. Just seeing her live like her life and be so happy and blossom into such a beautiful woman. Also having similar heritages to me just inspired me like, wow, like she's so beautiful. Like she did so much to get there, and that could even be me one day if like that's really how I feel and that's really where I want to take it in my life. Thankfully, like she's like been so supportive to me as well. And just like that's just been one of the most validating things, is like somebody I just looked up to so much in prior to my transition and in the beginning of my transition, and just like being supportive to me and kind of like lending me their hand in a way. And yeah, I would say like she was the first like for me that I was like, wow, like that looks like one of my cousins. Like that's literally like crazy. Like that's so amazing. And I feel like just diving into her life really showed me like the possibilities that I could have for my own life.
And I feel like, it's great that you give Nikita her flowers, because I do want to say that, also as a viewer and someone who's followed Nikita for a long time, I feel like she was very much not the very first open trans woman, but someone that was very open about it, especially because I feel like opening up about something like that can be very scary, especially on social media with how social media is. Do you feel like at the beginning you were also scared to like open up about that online, or was that something that you were like, you know what, I don't care, I'm already out to my parents, I'm just gonna let everyone know?
It was very intimidating at first. I would say like I was feeling all free that I was gay, and the constant like question I had in the back of my mind was like, are you a girl? Are you a girl? Like, are you sure you're not a girl? Like, this is truly something you have questioned your whole life. And now that you are out, it's being brought to the forefront even more. When I finally opened up online, I was super intimidated to make my first post that I was deciding to transition, but I was so like thankfully overwhelmed by so much love and support and welcoming into the community, because I feel like everyone at the time kind of knew it was coming. Like it was kind of like when is she gonna do it at this point? Thankfully, I got through it, but I was so intimidated because I was like, okay, it was already one thing for me to come out. Like, everyone comes out left and right gay. But to be trans, it's like a big statement to make for yourself, because you're now you're vowing to like basically promise to yourself that your rest of your life that this is the path you're going down for the rest of your life, and you have to stick to it. There's no going back. It's no undoing the surgeries and the medication. It's just so much so much risk you're willing to take. And I just knew like once I was 18, I was like, yeah, like this is time for me to do it. And I was like, I'd rather do it now than wait until I'm like, there's too much to undo, or there's too much to, I don't want to say too much to undo, but I just didn't want to regret like, damn, I always felt like this. I should have done it at a younger age. Like I feel like I caught it right when the thoughts were super, super heavy on my mind. So I acted on it.
Was it something that you would constantly get from people around you? Like, are you sure? Like, are you sure it's not, because I feel like a lot of the time people that are maybe not educated or maybe don't know anything about our community, sometimes they almost see it as wrong or very much like, oh, it's just a phase, right? Did you
Right.
ever have anyone around you, family, friend, make these comments and would almost even make you doubt yourself? Like, wait a minute, is this really something I want? Like, did you have people around you that would constantly like make you doubt yourself?
Yes, I feel like I ask myself this sometimes kind of often too, or like not as often, but definitely in the beginning a lot, because there's definitely a lot of scenarios. I don't think there'll ever be a place in your transition where you won't question yourself still. I think like there's, especially in the state of the world today, I think there's so many times where you'll get put in positions where you question, like, is this what I should be doing? Or am I wrong for
Yeah.
doing this? Because then, it goes into religion and then it goes into traditional beliefs. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like it gets too like bad, bad, bad. But it's like, we're not hurting nobody. Like we're good people. We're human at the end of the day. I believe as long as you're not hurting nobody and you're happy, you should be able to do what you want. I definitely had a lot of doubt around me. I feel like online people are questioning like, if you're really transitioning, or like, especially like the T girls can be very like not welcoming to you in the very beginning. Cause from the very beginning, you're literally doing a 360 turnaround from a guy to a girl. So it's not gonna be pretty at first. But what's the saying? Good things take time. When you really trust the process and you're actually doing the work internally, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, it's only a matter of time to when things will blossom to how they're supposed to and how you want. Definitely having the doubt from either high school people, just moving out here and then having all those friends still in high school and elementary, just like, is she for real? Or like I said in the beginning, it was very, very spooky. So they're just like, like just saying stuff about my appearance or like if it's genuine, because at the time I was already on social media prior to me transitioning. So just about if it was like genuine or not, which like to me it was. Like if I didn't have all those people supporting me and still supporting me, I feel like I wouldn't have gained the confidence and trust in myself that I can do this.
Yeah.
And it's possible, and there's so many other people like me. It's definitely just about like just not listening to those outside voices, because honestly, life is too short to just not keep yourself happy.
Transitioning looks so different for everyone. What was your process like? Like, where did you start? Where did you investigate? What was all that like for you?
It was definitely a process from the beginning. I had no clue where to go, what to do. I literally just started doing my research on Google, just seeing where's the nearest hospital I could go to even talk to about medically transitioning and how to do that and how much it's gonna cost. Just because I grew up in such a small town in the Bay Area that is filled with nothing but straight cis people. So there was like one gay person, I would say every like 200 people. Like it was a very, like at the time, it was very, very rare for like you to just come across gay people, especially openly flamboyant gay people. And I literally was calling hospitals near me in LA. Because like I said, I did transition like a month after I moved into LA. So I was living in a house with 9 girls that were all on the dance team, Next Kids. I obviously had so much great support from my sisters. Well, my sisters. They just taught me so much about just naturally being a woman and the natural habits and the natural like ways to just go about life and navigating as a woman. Just so much I learned and picked up, and even some stuff that I've even taught them with my lifestyle. But I remember calling like the nearest LA hospitals next to me that specialize in trans healthcare, and literally every hospital was trying to charge me from like $200 to like $500 for a consultation.
Oh shit!
Just
So like not even medicine.
not even
medicine.
just to like even hear me out. And I couldn't. At the time, I was like out here on my own, financially, just supporting myself independently. So I was like, dude, why am I gonna pay $500 for a consultation and medication's not even promised? Like, I can't right now. Like, I know there's a better way for me to go about
Does
this.
insurance cover that or no?
It does.
Okay.
So insurance does cover it, but at the time I was not
insured.
Yeah, I wasn't. Like
yeah,
basically, like I wasn't like talking to my dad at the
Yeah.
time, and I was under my dad's insurance. So That was like a whole tricky slope. Like, how do I get on medication with my old name being under my insurance, and also my dad not wanting to like accept me? It's a very, very tricky thing. But I ended up like just out of the people I met being in LA my first year, I met a lovely, lovely lady through one of, Zachary Vang. Yes. So through her, on her birthday party, she's actually friends with Carrie Colby, who I met back in 2021.
Love her.
Yes, we love Carrie. She was actually the first and only trans girl that I met and helped me, guide me in my transition. I had no clue where to start, who to talk to, where to even pick up a pill or a shot. And she literally put me on to like the stuff that she was doing in the hospital she goes to. And from there, they took such great care of me. I had no stress from there at that point. I was in great hands. Next thing you know, Carrie asked me to be her drag daughter. So Carrie now is my trans and drag mother. Yeah, I've just been so grateful to have her part of my life living in LA the past 4 years, because she was truly one of the realest and first to help a girl out. Like there really is so much that you don't know going into your trans womanhood. And there's so many ropes that need to be taught and experiences that need to be learned. And I just can't be more thankful enough to have had that angel be by my side. And yeah.
What was it like for your parents? I'm sure you came out to them as trans, but then when you were like, you know what, I'm going to start taking medication, hormones, or whatever it was that you were getting prescribed, do you feel like your parents took that a little bit like, oh shit, like it's for reals? Because I feel like that's when, I'm sure if they did have any thoughts of like, oh, maybe it's just a phase, maybe, let's just see where it goes from here. But then them hearing you and seeing that you're actually going through, like, was that like a different combo that they had? Or do you feel like they were already so supportive and on board at that time?
Definitely, I feel like at that point, they were on board. I knew my mom knew that like, that's what I needed to do at that point. It was kind of like hard for us to talk about, because it's like, okay, like now you're
awkward?
Yeah, like a little awkward, because now you're actually like making the change. And I did not tell my dad, because I feel like me and my dad at the time just were not really talking like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, I'm going to do this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Thankfully, it's all been going smooth since then. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people thought it was a phase at first, especially just exploring your queerness. Yeah. There's so many levels to it, and it's like everybody's story is different. Like you have people that do try the feminine things and they actually don't like it. They actually go back to being masculine, which is like completely fine. Like that's them. And it's not like, oh, they're going back to their normal state or how they're really supposed to be. It's more of like, no, like that's just what they like and what fits them. And I feel like for me, like I said, at 18 years, just being the DL trade, like trying to fit in, when everyone knew damn well, everyone knew like, okay, she got some sugar in her tank, but yeah, it's just like there are phases and phases die out. Like that's how you know it's a phase. And I feel like it's definitely not a phase when you literally turn it into your lifestyle.
Tell us a little bit more about, the emotional highs and lows when it comes to transitioning, because like you mentioned, it is a journey, it's not always pretty. What do you feel like were some emotional highs and emotional lows when it came down to your transitioning?
Great question. I think the emotional highs is realizing the fact that I made such a big and permanent decision to live with for the rest of my life, knowing that this is what makes me happy at the end of the day. I feel like that has to be the most euphoric and biggest blessing that I get to live with for the rest of my life. Is like, it's not something I just do at night. It's not something I just do on the weekends or maybe on Halloween once a year. It's actually living my life 24/7 as a woman the way I've always wanted to be. Because, none of us has to be here. We all have to deal with it. We all have to make this life with what we have and what we can. And I think that, like, I always just believe you wouldn't have the calling for a reason. And I think the biggest emotional high is just the euphoria of living as my authentic self every single day and excited for the future to come and see where I can go in my life as a woman and a trans woman, being a big representation of the community and just breaking boundaries everywhere I can. Some emotional lows definitely has to be, which is not talked about a lot in the trans community, is just the mental health aspect, the mental battle, fighting those old thoughts, those old habits, those old beliefs, and also fighting against the grain constantly. It's a constant uphill battle, which we have to get through. We just need it more than ever of just standing our ground and making it firm that we're here. And it can be very hard waking up some days like you love how you look, and some days, which is like pretty normal for everyone, but some days like you literally think you look like the opposite gender. And it's not just thinking it, it's just like actually kind of like knowing that that's who you used to be, and you want to rear as far away from possible as that. And it's definitely why I always tell trans women, trans girls, anybody in the queer community to prioritize your mental health, because with being trans comes so many mental obstacles, and there's going to be so many things you second guess and question, or don't know what to do. It's a lot that you have to deal with on your own. So I always say, take care of yourself mentally, because it truly is really hard for us going through everything we go through, that you really have to either be queer or be trans to understand, like to have had those thoughts before, or to even have like a hint of what we may go through mentally on the daily. And even just like publicly, one of the scariest things is like getting clocked, especially in a very dangerous environment where you know it's not safe, and just depending on where you live and where you're from, it can be very, very risky showing up as you are, because certain cities, certain areas just don't play that.
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt unsafe?
There's definitely been a couple moments that I have questioned my safety in the environments, whether that's like at the store, the gas station, because like one, just being a girl, you're already a target. Two, you're trans. So then it's like, oh my gosh, then it's like a double whammy at that point. Like you don't want to at all interact with any male. We'll just say that, any male. You're just like, I want to stay away. I'm trying to be safe. But there was one time I can vividly remember when I was in New York 2 years ago. I was there for a work trip with my dance team, and we went to a spa on the last day. It was like off of Times Square. It was just like a self-care day, and it was like, spas. So spas are usually like split up by gender. And at the time, my ID mark was not changed. And we went to this spa, and we all had to show our IDs, which I feel like you don't always do, but we all had to show our IDs for some reason. And literally, like I said, I have an all-girl dance team, the Next Kids, so we're all girls. I remember we're all getting wristbands to get into the locker room to change and then go into the spa. And I remember there was another boy in the group, and we had got the same wristband. And all the other girls literally had the same colored wristband. And I remember like, kind of like my stomach, like my heart dropping to my stomach, like fuck, like what the fuck is this bitch trying to say? No, I'm just kidding. But like, I was just like, damn, like that's so fucked up. Like, how do you see me and then like you want to put me into the wrong bathroom? Like that's so like, one, that's dangerous. Two, that's terrifying for me. That's terrifying for any man in the restroom seeing somebody that looks like a woman walk in there, but it's not really a woman. Now it's a mind fuck for all of us.
Yeah.
And I was pissed. Thankfully, my manager was there at the time. I told her, I was like, they want me to go into the men's bathroom, like at a spa. Like, spas, you're wearing a towel over your waist, and girls, you wear over your boobs. Yeah. So it's like, I am not going into that bathroom and about to be topless and be around all these guys, which, would be nice, but at the same time, hell no. Like, that's no. Like,
because you don't know how they're going to react.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's like the scary part,
That's so scary. And then me going in there by myself and all my girls are in the other bathroom, hell no. So I remember I like low-key made a big deal about it, told my manager, and she was like not having it. We were like, so why has she got the wrong wristband? Like, what's going on here? Like, why did you guys do that? They're like, oh, well, we based it off the ID and like, that's what we have to go by. And we're like, no, like, that's absolutely not okay. Like, that's not the identity that she identifies with, and we need to change that wristband. And I can't remember vividly every detail exactly, but I remember there was some back and forth about like not doing it and why they couldn't. And it was really just one of the girls at the front desk just being transphobic, kind of just being a hater. Yeah. Some girls just be so insecure sometimes that they cannot fathom seeing another girl happy happier than them. I was so pissed. Like, I was just like, what do we do? Like, that's so not fair. Like, I'm not trying to make a big deal. I'm not trying to like bring up like, do you know who I am or anything? It was just kind of like, do you see me? Like, I'm human in front of you, and I'm telling you, like, that's not the bathroom I want to go in, and it's not the bathroom I should go in. And out of respect, you should do your part and work accordingly. I think the manager started to kind of notice the conversation going back and forth between us, like kind of like arguing with the lady of like, you need to change that. Like, and all my girls like were kind of like behind me, like, what's going on?
Like, we don't have a problem.
At this point, because at this point I was like, no, like, this is so fucked up. Like, why are you, I was like, what did I say? I was like, I'm gonna give a bad review to this place. Like, I'm gonna tell everybody that this place is transphobic. Because at that point, like, you have to really make people like feel shitty for making you feel shitty like that. Because how are you gonna make me feel so ashamed and like literally misgender me? At that point, like, I have to scare you. Like, I'm gonna put a bad Yelp review. Like, what's your name again? Like, okay, that's fine. Like, and like, let me not tell my followers. Like, let me not make a big deal about this, because like, there are people who go straight to the internet. But I feel like for me, it's always just like, no, like, we can handle this first. Like, we don't need to like make a big deal out of it. And the manager literally got scared as soon as they said that, and they realized that we were a dance group. He literally like accommodated us. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, we're gonna give you guys a big discount, and also like give you a voucher for the next time you come, which we were never gonna come back there. But gave me the right wristband and like made everything kumbaya. But it's like, it shouldn't even take the like knowing who you are or like the followers or just having to even over explain that type of stuff for you to understand and like care about your customer.
And I feel like it is something that happens a lot, right? Like, I feel like even me, you guys, I feel like going into the male's restroom when I'm all glammed up, it's so uncomfortable. It's so awkward. Like, these men start thinking that you're going in there to see their dick. No, bitch, I'm going in there to go pee. Like, what the hell? Talking about your transition, I want to talk a little bit more about, you know, the change of name. How did you choose Riri? You know, what other names are up there before you made the, you know, final decision? And how important was it for you to change the name when it came down to your journey?
I feel like trans women changing their name is like a girl's first time buying her first bra. I think it's the marker in like, you're a woman now. Like, cause like most of the time, trans women, you are transitioning at the age of like, okay, you're a little bit more older now, or you know a little bit more. Not in every case. There are definitely some successful cases of younger girls transitioning, but for the most part, it's like that step into womanhood. And I remember being in COVID, I fell in love with Drag Race. I literally watched every single season. I at one point thought that I was gonna be on Drag Race one day, and you know, who knows, maybe, but I don't think so now. But you never know where their wind will take me.
You can still do it though, because there's trans women that have done Drag Race,
Yeah, and I was just in love with the show, and I was like, what would my drag name be? And when I was a femboy, my nickname came from my old dead name, which was my nickname came as Riri. So my old name is very, very masculine. So we needed like a feminine name for me to be referred to as, because that was not who that was. Like, this is Riri now. And I was like, okay, what would my drag name be? And I thought like, okay, I think I like the R factor. We're gonna stay in the R realm of things. And I think I like Riri. I was like, I think I like Riri. That's such a cute, cunty name. And honestly, there's no other Riris besides the only Riri, which is Rihanna. And I was like, fuck it. Like, there's no like other drag queens or other trans women that I personally knew about that were like, had the name. And I definitely wanted a name that was like not taken or not common. And I was like, okay, if it's only Riri that I will be compared to, that's fine. Like, I don't mind being compared to Rihanna, but I don't want to be compared to like, oh, like, you know, other 5 bitches named Riri. Like, no. So I was like, okay, we need to find a last name, a 2-part name, because every drag queen has a combination name. And I wanted to stick in the name of R. And I was thinking of, I remember searching up adjectives of like things that start with R, and like adjectives or nouns or verbs. And I remember realness just being so like eye-catching to me.
The realness.
The realness. Realness. Yes, exactly. And I was like, honestly, I love what that word, everything that word holds. I think it's just like, especially from where I come from, the Bay Area, just coming from such a real background and going through so much real things in my life, that I felt like it just fit me so much. And it also holds me up to the standard of always keeping it real. And I just love that it's like this kind of like, it's like this royalty that comes with the realness, because you can't call yourself the realness and not be real.
Yeah.
Like you can't like be a lioness bitch.
You're like, bitch, you're fake.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, change the name.
Right. And like that's why like when people like can like condemn me for like being real or genuine, it means a lot, because that's truly like where my name even came from and what I've internally worked on since I've transitioned. Is just like I want to be real, I want to be genuine, I just want to be me, you know. So Riri Realness truly did come from me making it as a stage drag name. And I just kind of played with it since, because I loved the ring to it. I loved like the triple R entendre. And also it had that like sequence to it that just sounded nice rolling off the tongue. And I was like, okay, this is it. Well, that's my stage name. So my stage name is Riri Realness, pero I go by Rochelle, and Ruby's my middle name. I chose Rochelle because I remember I still wanted to stay in R. I was like, okay, I still got to keep it in the R.
Sense.
Yeah, it has to, like, we're making the brand here. Like, it's green, it's R, you know, we're from the Bay, she's Latina, she's Asian. Like, we're developing the brand. And I remember I was like, okay, what are some cunt names that start with R? Because I don't want, no shade, but like, I don't want no Rebecca or like some like old name. Like, I want like something that's pretty and it's going to sound nice when you say my name. And I remember I have a cousin, Michelle, and I was like, okay, you know, you're playing with names. You're thinking Relissa, Retina, or I'm trying to make up every name that like I could possibly make, and just like even doing my research online, girl names that start with R. I remember just Rochelle. So I have an auntie Rochelle and I have a cousin Michelle. And I just always love the way that sounds. It just sounds so cunt. It sounds so baby girl.
It also doesn't sound very like everyday.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like, it's like, okay.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's familiar, but it's different. And people love familiar, but different. So I remember I was like, but I don't want to be Rochelle, because one, I have an auntie Rochelle, and two, I personally don't like the way that's spelled for me. And if we're going to keep Riri as my nickname, then we need to make sure it all is cohesive. So Rochelle is where that came from. And Ruby was just kind of like always like this alter ego name that I always had for myself, staying in the R brand, and also like red kind of just being my like secondary favorite color / like my alter ego. So yeah, that's kind of like
I love it,
that's
though.
like the origin, the lore of where my name comes from.
This episode of Noche de Pendejadas is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Every time I use Booking.com to find a place to stay in the US, I know they'll have exactly what I'm looking for. They have a huge variety of options from hotels to vacation rentals, and I know I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I found Booking.com to have something for everyone. I'm so excited because me and Danny have found the perfect hotel for our New York trip on Booking.com. Si no sabían, se están enterando, amigas. Yo y Dani tenemos planes de ir a Nueva York la primera semana de marzo. Encontramos un hotel, amigas, that is walking distance from all our favorite theaters, so we can see a musical a day if we want, porque ustedes saben que me and Danny are huge Broadway fans. And we also made sure that our hotel was very spacious, amigas, porque si ustedes saben algo about New York hotels, they tend to be very small. Y encontramos el lugar that had the space we needed. Y pues obviamente un hotel that brought the vibes to us. I'm so excited that we were able to find the perfect hotel on Booking.com, y no puedo esperar to show you guys which one we ended up going with. No matter who you are, Booking.com helps you find the stay that's ridiculously right for you. Find exactly what you're booking for on Booking.com. Booking.yeah. I love it. Tell us a little bit more about, the surgeries. A year ago, you got both surgeries at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know, you got your breasts done and facial feminization surgery.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that. What made you decide it was the perfect time to go through with these surgeries? And also paint us a picture of what was it like surgery day? Were you nervous? How did it go? Did you have complications? Tell us everything about that.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. For those who don't know, the first surgeries that I was able to do for myself in my transition is my breast augmentation and my facial feminization surgery. So breast augmentation is literally a boob job. It's either to enhance your boobs, make them sit tighter. Pretty simple. Everybody is familiar with that. FFS, which is short for facial feminization surgery, is the procedure of enhancing and adjusting features to your face. So whether that's doing a facelift, that's doing a nose job, it's shaving the brow bone, pulling the forehead hairline down. You can also shave your chin, you can shave your jaw, you can do lipo in your face. There's so many different items that are possible for FFS. FFS looks different for every woman. It's up to you how much FFS you want to get done. Now, when you do go to consultation, your doctor will offer you all of these, what's the word?
Options,
Options,
kinda?
yeah,
Okay.
options. So I get anything of that. Your doctor will offer you the options of what they can do for your FFS. And I knew for me and my personal goal in my trans journey and as a woman, period, overall, I want to stay as close to natural as possible. Thankfully, puberty and genetics have so much to do with that. It's definitely different case scenario for everyone. But for me, I thankfully resemble a lot of my mom and want to stay as close to that as much as possible. And my family, and I just don't want to fix anything that's technically not broken or something that's more for external.
Yeah.
I feel like what I got done, which was I shaved my chin down and I shaved my jaw, which they didn't do it on the outside. They actually had to they had to open my mouth and actually shave inside my mouth like this. So oh my gosh, it was so painful recovery. But I knew that for my transition, I don't really desire the bimbo-y, over exaggerated look.
Surgery look.
Yeah, surgery
yeah.
look, which is completely fine. Like I said, every girl to each their own. Just for me, it's not how I want to go about my lifestyle, especially in the environments that I'm always around, and just being a dancer all around. Just having that many surgeries can be a little concerning for your physical health and getting back into activity, and just certain restrictions that you might not be able to do moving forward when you get a lot of stuff done like that. It's all very easy to get wrapped up in surgery as a trans woman, and on top of that, being in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So I always encourage, because I feel like if you can do it and if it's something that is on your mind, do it. I will never be someone to tell somebody not to do something that is clearly something that you want and is something you have to live with for the rest of your life. But I think it's just now surgery is getting so glamorified online, especially just with how transparent content creators and celebrities have been with, which is a good thing, but also it isn't something that's everyone can buy a car. Not everyone should get surgery and not everyone needs surgery at the same time.
I feel like your goal was very much you want them to look at you and not be like, damn, surgery. You were like, oh, she looks good.
It's kind of if you ask okay, she got surgery, or sometimes you have to ask. I want it very does she have surgery? Does she not? Or
she looks good.
Yes, yeah. Just very woman.
Yeah.
Not overly woman, overly feminine, and not also too original of my old body, of my the old way I used to look and be. So surgery day, I was definitely super excited leading up to surgery day. The morning of, I feel like it's when all the nerves started to kick in, because I feel like it really hit me oh shit, girl, you're about to go into the knife. This is not something that we're just waiting for no more. You're going to experience it for the first time now. So there was definitely some nerve, but I feel like I was just so ready to get it done. And thankfully I had the support of my auntie and my uncle. Shout out to them for being there for me throughout my whole process of getting the surgery done last Valentine's Day. I remember pulling up to the hospital super early in the morning, got me checked in here in LA. And I remember it was just all pretty quick. They put that sharp needle in your arm. Oh my gosh, that hurt so bad. It was game time. The doctor came in, went over what we're gonna do. And I remember telling him, it's okay, doctor, I want them, just right. Not too small, not too big, just medio, perfect, right in the middle. There's just so many concerns you have. Cause with trans women and our anatomies, there's different ways you have to go in with certain procedures. So I remember it was I want them to sit up pretty. I don't want them to be sideways, pointing out. I had so many things that I told him that needed to be met. They started rolling me into the operating room. Oh my gosh, when I tell you, I felt like I was in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. I felt like I was living a movie. I started bawling in my wheelchair. they were rolling me, and like I was just silently crying. Like they had my mask on, they had the helmet, they had the shower cap on, the what's it called, the net, the hair net.
The hairnet,
Yes, and this like the scrubs. And oh my gosh, we went into the operating room, and there's like 10 different people, like nurses in the room, and you see the doctor, and it literally felt like a movie. Like I felt like I was like on the season finale of that season. Like, oh shit, like next season is about to go crazy. Like what is this gonna be for Riri? And I remember just like bawling my eyes out, and I was just like sitting there like so like euphoric, like so happy. Like could not believe that this is actually where I gotten myself in my life, and I did work so hard to get myself here. And this is everything I've like dreamed of since like I started, and since a young age, I just never knew that this would be possible. So thankfully the doctors and the nurses, they were all supportive. They didn't even like acknowledge me crying. I feel like it happens so often that they were just like,
they're like, ya cállate.
yeah.
Acuéstenla,
Right, they're just like,
Yeah.
like, get her done, get her out of here. No, but they were just very like, they were like rubbing my arm. They were just like comforting me. But you could tell like it was like not something new to them.
Yeah,
like
not their first rodeo.
Yeah. And I remember they like all lifted me up onto the bed, and I went to sleep, and bitch, I woke up like, oh my gosh, I felt like I got in an accident.
I have seen it. Looks kind of crazy at
Oh
the
my
beginning,
gosh,
right?
like, getting
te
off.
tapan acá y acá.
See, like there's, oh my gosh, they had me in a big like head wrap, and you know my face is all swollen, and literally like I'm like this, and like my whole chest is wrapped up, and honestly like you kind of feel like, what just happened? Like, what did they do to me? Because like you look down and you can't see nothing, and you can't really take that wrap off for a minute. I remember just like, oh my gosh, waking up was just like the first thing I asked for. I was like, water. Like I need water. My throat was so dry from the like anesthesia, right? I just remember being so woozy getting up. Like girl, like I just never experienced that before. So it was so crazy to have like felt that way, and like, you know, they just make sure you're good. You know, when you get out the hospital bed, you know, they let you use the restroom, they walk you around. And at that point, I'm just stiff. Like, I feel like a stick. Like, I didn't want to open my arms. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to carry anything. I can't even talk. So I'm like humming everything. And just remember we had to go home. There's LA traffic coming from Beverly. So, like, you know, anytime going there, you know, the traffic is so bad. Literally, right when I got home the first day, I knocked out. It was just like at that point, first day, it was like went by like that. Yeah, that was like literally like surgery day for me.
I'm a chismoso. I'm like, was it expensive? Or did you have insurance at the time already that covered it?
Yeah, so it is a very expensive process, but thankfully to America and to certain states like here in California, there is trans healthcare that provides coverage for trans surgeries, just any trans healthcare in general, which is super, super important for us to have, because this is not the life of every trans woman. Yeah. You know, I had to work very hard to get here, and every girl that has gotten surgeries and has blossomed into these beautiful women have worked very hard. And it's like, this is sadly not the reality for everybody, which is, I'm very aware of that in my privileges. And thankfully, like, there is coverage depending on your insurance, and I got a great deal for like $9,000 for both surgeries.
That's really cheap.
Yes, for two. And yeah, thankfully, like the doctor, he like worked out a deal with me for it. But without the insurance coverage, oh my gosh, it would have been like, I think like $80,000.
Yeah, I believe it.
It would have been like $80,000, and like, oh my gosh, I just remember like being able to do both those procedures at once was like, I wanted to get done, because I was like, you know, surgery, you have to go out for some time after, you can't do nothing physical. I was like, no, like if I'm gonna get some surgeries, like let's get it one and done, and like let's move on, and let's take our time.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to constantly change. We don't need to constantly tweak. Like just work on yourself. Just love yourself. Like you're never gonna be perfect. You can't strive for perfection.
What was the recovery like? I'm sure you know that shit was intense. Was there ever moments where you were like, what the fuck did I do
Yes.
before you got the results that you wanted? Was there any moments like, oh fuck, I just fucked myself up? Like, what was that recovery like, mentally and physically?
I would say physically was like the hardest thing to overcome at first, because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to do this again. I feel like more of the pain was centered in my face rather than my boobs, because my chin and my jaw, like I told you, they went in and they had to stitch me up like in my jawline area. Thankfully, they didn't have to go like externally. They all did it inside my mouth. But oh my gosh, I didn't feel no pain from my boobs. I only felt like stiffness. It was just like, don't lift anything higher than 10 pounds. Careful how much you open your arms and just massage them and let them like settle. And yeah, then they give you like whole instructions how to go about that. And it was just my face that was really that was the bitch, because it was for a few days. I couldn't even literally open my mouth. I was on a liquid diet for a week. So that was like, I'm a Taurus. I love to eat. Like I eat down, and like I just was so like, like kind of miserable in a way, like only drinking like liquid things, which is like either fruits or vegetables, and liquid vegetables is so gross. So actually something that kind of scared me in the beginning was I had an allergic reaction to the medication that the doctors prescribed to me. And that was actually like, what the hell is going on? Because one, I never had surgeries before, so I never got this reaction, but I started breaking out in hives in like parts of my body, and my scars where they did the incisions were breaking out in hives, which to me, I was like, oh no, ay Dios, like what's going on? Like, I actually thought it was the fruits that I was eating, because I like got my fruits from like local vendors. So I was like, oh no, like is there bad fruits or something? And I was like, no, because I honestly noticed it started to happen every time I took my medication. You have to take it like 2-3 times a day. Prior, there's really only like, I'm not allergic to a lot of things at all. So there was only like one thing I'm allergic to that the doctor knew about that wasn't in the medication, but there was something similar to it that was in the medication. And I ended up finding out the hard way that I was allergic to that too. But literally right when I stopped taking the medication, like the doctor told me, it all stopped and went away. But oh my gosh, like I was so scared, because dude, imagine seeing hives on your body after you're getting surgery. Like, that's scary. Like, it wasn't like crazy hives. It was just like kind of like little bumps. But that's still like, you're like, what do you do? Like,
it's scary too.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
did it go wrong? Is my body
Yes.
rejecting
it
because
because it's a foreign
thing,
object. So that's the thing too. Like, you're inserting, well, as trans women, you're inserting foreign objects to your body. So that was like the biggest concern. Like,
fuck my $9,000.
I know. Like, what's
Like,
a waste? Bitch, I got
fuck.
botched. No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
crazy.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about ¿Cómo te va en el amor? How is your love life? Are you currently dating? Are you looking? What do you look for in a relationship? As a trans woman, do you feel like it's harder to like, date?
I am single at the moment. I'm just mingling around. I wouldn't say I'm really like looking for anybody in particular. More so in the phase of my life, just really just focusing on myself, as cliche as I sound, because like when you really do focus on yourself, you can attract the right candidates for you in your life that align with where you want to go and the woman that you want to be, and eventually like the family that you want to raise. As far as dating as a trans woman, definitely since surgery, I feel like things have definitely gotten a lot smoother. And just being on hormones for almost 4 years now, it's all just a different playing field than when you're first navigating, one, your transition, and two, your love life as a trans woman in the beginning. It's all very, very, I wouldn't want to say for everybody, but it can be very rocky. And I think now it's definitely gotten easier the more I explore and the more I understand what I like and what I want in a man. I feel like at first I was just always looking in the wrong places, going after the wrong guys. It took me really having solitude with myself and like having solitude, being celibate, to like just pour that love into myself and not be so fixated on like, why am I trans and why don't like people love me because, or why don't guys love me because I'm trans, which is not the case.
Would you get that a lot though? Like you felt?
I felt like that a lot in the first few years. And I'm not gonna lie, it's still something that I like shove that thought away like as much as I can, because it's really not a way for you to live. Like you just have to love yourself. There's somebody for everybody. You can't get fixated on those bad apples, because rejection truly is protection, and it just shows you that they're not meant for you and they would never even be able to handle or be able to fit in your lifestyle. It's thankfully getting better. I've honestly been meeting some really great men and just like trying new things and honestly like exploring in the men aspect or the men's spectrum as well. A big part of why I was always hitting the same wall was because I was always going after, or I was always entertaining the DL men. The DL, or like the trade, the very, very masculine, like machismo vibes, like just super like
men that are interested in you privately but don't want to be open about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Just very bad, like fetishing.
Yeah.
And especially like something about you when you first transition, guys will like fetishize you in that type of way because you're just so early in your womanhood that they like that. And it's just so like, it's so like hard to go through sometimes because like you really do crave that love. I feel like once I started like allowing myself to just explore with men, just men overall, whether they're straight, gay, bi, even trans, like just you never know. Like try it all now because I'm only 22 right now, so might as well see what I like now before I settle down. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely just, having fun, but also just staying focused because, she's a business-minded girl and that's what comes first at the end of the day.
I love that. And, before we move on to the next topic, I want you to leave us with a piece of advice for anyone watching who is scared to come out, who is scared to live their true authentic self, or maybe feel like they won't be accepted if they do tend to come out. What's something that you can tell them to make them feel not alone?
A piece of advice I would give to any younger trans women, trans people, or queer people in the LGBT community, or anybody, something I always preach is to just authentically be yourself. Always and forever. There's nothing more beautiful in this life than to just truly be who you are and do what you want in this lifetime. And just don't be so fixated or care about really outside opinions. Because once you start getting too focused on that, you start doing everything for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I believe that the more you express yourself authentically, the more everything will fall into place with you for your life. So be yourself. Don't care about outside opinions, as cliche as that may sound sometimes. Really just like, as long as you're not hurting nobody, you're being happy, do what you want in your life. Like try new things, explore, be proud of who you are, represent you and your communities, and just love who you love. Because life is too short.
I love that. And I do feel like, a lot of the time people are scared to be themselves, but it's very important to allow yourself to be scared and be like, you know what, this is something scary, but also don't let that fear stop you from living yourself. Because like you said, the moment you turn that switch to think like, you know what, I'm going to live for myself, I'm going to do things for me, that is really the moment that's going to change your whole life. Si la gente no te acepta, si la gente no te quiere, pues que no se quieran ellos y que no te quieran a ti, pero tú quiérete, ámate y vas a ver que va a venir todo lo bonito para tu vida. Quiero platicar about, your social media career. Obviamente ahorita te miramos all over social media going viral with your dances, but I want to know how all that started because let's be honest, it wasn't always viral moments.
Right.
What made you be like, you know what? I want to start doing this. I feel like I can do it. Fuck, let's get the phone out, record. What was that like for you?
I would say it started to happen back in like 2017, 2018. I was literally just posting my class videos that I either took class from choreographers or was just training at the studio that I was at for 10 years. Just posting it because I always loved to post my outfits, always loved to just kind of show like my dance videos because, I was kind of proud. I was proud of it. And I just really started forming a bond with a couple of the girls in the studio, and we were just naturally and like just started to come together, and our chemistry was just so like unmatched. And we literally decided in 2017, like I told them like, we should turn this into a group. Like, I think this is something that is so beautiful that we have in between all of us. We're also talented, we're also driven, and we got each other. Like, why not like start our own team and just like kind of just build a platform for us to help us gain exposure and reach the goals that we have for ourselves individually and also as a group. You can go so far alone, but you can go so much farther together. And I knew that like us being each other's support system was going to take us places, and it has. And when you truly believe in yourself and your people around you, and you're not like a selfish person, so many good things can happen to you, just being genuine and real. And in 2017 is how the Next Kids started. We came together as a group, and I told the girls, like, if we're going to be on social media, if we want our presence to be known, I think we should do colors. I think everybody here should have a color, so we could all be characterized and people could remember us. And like, even if you don't know their name, like, oh, that's Green Girl. Like the Green Girl be killing it. Like, oh, and the Green Girl's Chance. Like it makes you like really
stand out.
And also it makes like people kind of have their favorites, which you need. Like you need favorites in a group team, and you need everyone to not
blend in
as well, because you want everyone to form their own brand, and you want everyone to all get equal amount of attention and exposure. And I just knew, like, think of M&Ms, think of Sour Patch, Power Rangers, Teletubbies, all of our childhood, like, cartoons that we know and love. And, like, I just knew that, like, if we were a dance team that were color-based, people were always going to remember that. And no one's ever done it before. So I'm very, very happy and grateful that that is something that helped stamp us and our group, like, on social media. Because, when you saw those colors and you saw us dancing, you know who those girls were.
Obviamente, you start doing these videos. I'm sure at the beginning it was a little slow to grab traction. Was there a moment where you're like, oh my God, we're going viral? Like, this is actually working out. I told y'all so.
Yes.
What was that moment for you and for your group?
It was just like so validating at the time, because we really we quit our dance studio and we really just went on our own to start our own journey as a dance team. The first viral moment I could remember had to be probably back in 2019, when we were literally posting on every platform, on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Dubsmash, Triller.
You're like, one's got hit.
Facebook, YouTube, like one of these is gonna stick. Like we just need to flood. All of us were helping contribute, taking turns posting to all the channels. And I remember on Instagram, Sweetie, Rich 8-Figure, that's my type. She did like a challenge, and I had choreographed to it, and I directed this whole video with us at the gas station dancing to Sweetie's new song, which at the time Sweetie was like the girl. And it literally blew up. And I remember like, holy shit, like we need to keep doing this. Like we need to, like, people love our dancing, people love us. Like, like, let's keep this up, girls. Like, let's keep popping our shit. So from that moment, like, we just kept being consistent, because, people knew us for the colors. We were starting to open up more on YouTube. And then we just started incorporating our colors into every video so people could recognize. And, people just started kind of picking up on like, oh yeah, those are the girls. And it was just so eye-opening. Like when you really put intention into something and you like affirm it and manifest it, like shit really does come to life. And it's just like living proof right here.
You start pursuing dancing, not just as a hobby, but as a career. During that time, did you ever have anyone tell you, like, get a real job? Dancing isn't going to pay the bills. Because I feel like dancing, as well as like influencing, there's other careers that a lot of people don't see it as, a career or, a real job. Did you ever have anyone around you ever mention that? And if you did, how did that make you feel?
I feel like that's all it was in the beginning. Was just like so much doubt, so much worry, so much like people just love to be comfortable. That's just what it is at the end of the day. They want to be comfortable. We all crave stability, but in these creative fields, industries, you have to truly be passionate and want it. Because if you're not, you're never going to gain the stability that you crave. And also, if you're not resilient and you persevere through obstacles, it's gonna be a very hard battle to get through, because you either got to do it alone, you're gonna do it with people that you know. Even some of my family will like say sometimes too today, where it's just kind of like, no, like this is what I should be doing. Like we shouldn't all try to be the same thing, or we shouldn't all try to just like, if someone has that creative desire and ambition, like let them pursue that and try to support them as much as they can, because you already know how hard that can be. And like I would really love for that to change, like for like dancers, content creators. I just think like so much work gets put into what we do, and we really should be getting monetized for those type of things. And I just want to be a part of the change that helps dancers just gain more recognition in the work field, because it truly is something that like we are such a big impact to concerts, music videos, festivals, events that like if you were just to see the artist there, it would be boring. But let there be 2 dancers, let there be 10 dancers. And oh my gosh, like it's brought to life now. Like you bring a movie to life. And I think that's like overworked and underpaid, but it won't be like that for long. You know, in the moment, it made me feel very like, obviously question myself, like, damn, like maybe I do need to da-da-da-da, or honestly, it fueled me. It really did fuel me. I got over the sadness and I was like, honestly, I want to work hard. I want to prove them wrong. And I also want to prove it to myself that like, no, I can do it. And I'm that bitch. I really am passionate about these industries. Just like I said, you can't be fixated on other opinions. You have to, if you truly want it, you will go and get it.
You know, you talk a little bit about being on stage and how, you know, dancers make and play a big part with these shows. You know, not too long ago, you went on tour with Coi Leray.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did that, you know, opportunity come to you? What was it like being on tour? Did it meet the expectations? Tell us all about that.
So you want to know the crazy thing?
Yes.
So just piggybacking off of what we just talked about, this is like probably one of the most like haha to your face is that like so many people told me that social media was not sustainable. So many people told me that social media can't do nothing for you and like why are you wasting your time? And guess how I booked tour? Through social media. Literally by me posting myself all these years, whether I was gaining attention, whether I wasn't. And even you could be going viral, but it also has to translate to real jobs. It has to translate to real bookings. And it really just shows like you could post so much and you just never know who's watching or who's keeping you tab on you. Literally last year, the month of my birthday, I get the DM. Actually, I got the follow. I got the follow from Coi Leray. I was freaking out, like, holy shit, like, why she follow me? I hit her up. I was like, hey, love, I love your music so much. Like, let me know if you ever need dancers. Why was she already planning?
Yeah.
So she was like, hi, love, like she told me like, I live for your choreography so much. Like, I want you to dance on my tour and choreograph. Fully putting the whole production together for her half of the show because it was for Jhené Aiko's Magic Hour tour and Coi Leray opened up for her.
Okay.
It was just me and one other dancer for the whole tour. I actually did the second half of tour and there was another girl who did the first half. Because originally I was supposed to choreograph and dance and then they ended up just asking me to choreograph. And then, you know, with how things played out, the other girl couldn't do the second half. So thankfully I was thankfully I was the understudy basically because I knew the whole show. I made the whole show. So I was able to do the second half and I got to live my whole tour life experience. And it just like, for so long, I was questioning even myself if social media is worth it and it's what I should be doing. And like, that just had to be one of the biggest like proofs of validation to myself that like, wow, Riri, like you have worked so hard to gain the exposure and get your flowers for being able to be a part of such a big project. Also, just all the work that it took to get to this point, because it really took me posting all the time, posting my choreographies, whether they were my best choreography or whether they were my worst choreography, just documenting. And then also like opening up online, you know, TikTok has really helped so much with just allowing me to open up, and YouTube being such a great platform. It all just came into factor of like, if it wasn't for me posting on social media, she would have never found me. Like if I really was just one of these dancers that was like small-minded and was like, I hate social media, like I'm just a dancer, like I don't need to be on social media, I would have never got to here. Because that's a stigma in the dance community too, is like a lot of them hate social media. They hate that so many people go viral for the wrong reasons, which I dislike too. I can completely agree, but I definitely think that like we should all just be able to post. Like whether you're the best, whether you're the worst, like it shouldn't be no like, oh, you need to only post if you're this trained or if you're this like X, Y, and Z.
It almost serves like promo for you too, right?
Exactly. It's when you're really a business person, you see it as marketing.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're not signed, and even me, I'm still not signed. I'm not signed to an agency at the moment, which like every dancer that books music videos, festivals, tours, all has an agency. So the fact that this was brought to me on its own, for me, by me, just really proved like, damn bitch, I don't need no agency. I don't need y'all's validation. I don't need anybody to tell me that I can't do this, because I literally made it happen. And I just hope that me sharing this, it's not to brag, it's really just to give inspiration. It's to give hope that like no matter if you are a dancer or any job, career field that you want to be in, that you can literally attain it and achieve it as long as your mind is determined and you really put in that work.
You've worked with other artists. Which one has been like a very surreal moment aside from going on tour? Like, what other artists that you've worked with have been like, oh shit, like I really am dancing for this person? Have you had another moment like that?
Yes, I feel like there was a couple times. Definitely, I mean, like my first music video, which was with Daddy Yankee. Like he literally, like, I got that job through my old dance studio that I used to dance with, and just like we all grew up on his music. So the fact that I was able to be in the Concama video, oh my gosh, I remember like that was like my first like I made it moment. Like this is like what I need to do the rest of my life, and I could get used to this like lifestyle, because just turning your passion into a job is just such a beautiful blessing, and I will never take advantage of that. And I just knew like from that moment, like, oh yeah, like Riri, you have to keep working hard and keep booking as much as you can.
You know, not only are you a great dancer, but you're also a teacher.
Yes,
you teach
yes.
dance classes. Tell us a little bit more about that. Where and what type of dance classes do you teach? And what really inspired you from doing that, you know, leap of being like, okay, I'm not just a dancer, but I can teach? Because I feel like there's a lot of great dancers that can dance, but it's very hard to be a dancer and a teacher. You have to be patient. Not everyone's at your skill level. Not everyone is going to get it as easy as you. What inspired you of being like, you know what? I already know how to dance. I want to teach people how to dance.
Yes. I love that you broke it down like that too, because that truly is like ultimately what goes into like becoming a dancer and then also becoming a teacher. I now teach weekly classes here in LA at Playground Studios on Melrose, and also at 88 Studios in North Hollywood. So if you guys ever want to take my class, come learn from me. I teach hip hop, jazz funk, and reggaeton choreography. I do from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Just depends on the week and what the vibes I'm feeling. But for me, what the shift that I took becoming a dancer to choreographer, it's always very subtle. Just being a dancer and consuming so much choreography and watching so much choreography and learning so much choreography, you start to kind of like naturally be able to create your own.
Yeah.
And like when a song comes on and you start dancing and putting moves together and combos together, you're like, oh shoot, like I'm making choreography. For me, it took teaching my friends. So my friends that are now like the next kids, like I would like ask them like, hey, can you learn this? Like I want to film this right quick. And it just was simple stuff like that. Like coming up with a concept video, posting it. And at the time you would get like maybe 100, 200 views, and way like less thought into it as it is now. But I will say like definitely experience is what a dancer goes through to know that they want to become a teacher. The more experience you have in either jobs, in studios, and actually teaching classes, especially it's one thing to teach adults and it's another thing to teach kids. Thankfully, I started off teaching kids first and kind of worked my way up. And now I literally teach from like, I think the youngest kid I've taught is probably like 3 years old.
Oh, shit.
And probably the oldest, I think, is probably like 50. Like I've taught like a wide range of students. And I feel like that's something that's intimidating a lot of the time too, is like, I want to take your class, but I'm scared because I don't know. Like, but I'm like, no, like that's my job. Like it's literally my job to break down the movement, help you understand the foundations. There's never really a moment that truly like indicates like, oh, you're qualified to become a teacher now. It's definitely just the experiences you come across in your dance journey. And also it's trial and tribulation. Like if you have the calling and desire that you want to be a choreographer, do it. Like there's nobody that like, oh, you have to have this job or you have to be signed to this agency to become a choreographer. Like, no, honestly, the best choreographers come from nothing sometimes, no agency, not all the most experienced in the world, but just that drive. Like having that drive and that creativeness to want to create and want to put your work onto other people is truly, it's magical. It's not something that every dancer has the desire to do. So definitely recommend if you want to choreograph. Record your work, see your progress, and just put stuff out there until it sticks.
Y uno nunca sabe, amigas, a lo mejor me animo yo y voy a una de tus clases. Maybe I'll show up at one of your classes.
Yes,
we don't
come,
know.
I got you.
I suck at dancing, so
No.
I'm like, there's no hope for me. But I am so happy, you know, that you do classes. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to go ahead and leave all that information right here on the pop-up screen para que ustedes agarren su información, llamen a quien tengan que llamar para que agarren sus clases with Riri. Ya para terminar, we're going to end today's episode with the question I love ending with. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I see myself continuing to travel and teach across the world. Last year, I got to teach in China, first time going out of country, and I taught 15 classes.
Oh, shit.
In 2 weeks. And that was just, for me, just what showed me like choreography and dancing and documenting my life is something that truly brings me joy. And I definitely see myself having a home here in LA because I have my own apartment. So having a home, and I would hope to have a full, how do you say it?
Like a studio?
No, not a studio yet. Not a studio yet.
Oh, you're like, not 5 years, that's 10.
That's 10 because I really want to take my time with that one. But I would say I see myself having a full website for me to teach classes and online tutorials, for you guys to all connect with me and learn from me. And I also see myself possibly being in love by the next 5 years, hopefully with the right partner. And also just touring, traveling, maybe choreographing the Super Bowl, maybe choreographing the Grammys, the MTV Awards, just keep elevating my crafts and being good to everybody I come across, and just being a positive impact to this world, because that's what I'm here for.
And I'm so excited to see you accomplish every one of those dreams you know, make in the journey. And with that being said, you guys, espero que ya en casita les encantó muchísimo, because I truly did enjoy today's episode. I got to learn so much about you, the community, and I know a lot of people at home also got to learn so much. So with that being said, amigas, si no la siguen, vayan y síganla on all her social medias, which I'll leave down below, as well as on the screen right here. Y también no se les olvide de seguirme a mí so you guys won't miss any future episodes. And with that being said, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much, Alan. Thank you for having me today and just giving me the space and opportunity to open up about myself. It's been so great having this conversation with you, and yeah, I love you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys. Yay!